spoon slipped out of Helen's hand again. It clattered on the tile like it had something to say, and for a second she just stared at it. Her fingers were still curled like they were holding something. They hadn't dropped it because the spoon was too heavy or too slippery. They'd simply let go. Getting older doesn't always trumpets and cake. It sneaks in wearing fuzzy socks and holding a heating pad. So let's talk about the 12 unpleasant things seniors do as they age that no one really warns you about. Not the stuff in pamphlets, the real stuff. The quiet, awkward, hilarious, and sometimes heartbreaking realities that show up one by one like uninvited house guests and decide to stay. First up, the mysterious vanishing act of grip and dexterity. One day you're opening pickle jars like a champ, the next you're asking a spaghetti sauce lid if it has to be this difficult. No one tells you this is how aging starts, not with drama, but with quiet betrayals. Like a fork that slips, a button you can't fasten, or handwriting that looks like it belongs to someone else. She looked around the kitchen. No one saw. No one ever does. That's the worst part. It all happens in silence. Helen had always been precise, the kind of woman who could peel an apple in one perfect curl, thread a needle on the first try, and open a stubborn jar without asking for help. She once assembled an entire IKEA bookshelf without cursing, which should have earned her some kind of lifetime achievement award. But now, she buys pre-sliced apples and ergonomic everything. She told her daughter it was for convenience. But the truth? Her hands tremble just enough now to make slicing feel like defusing a bomb. Buttons are trickier than they used to be. Zippers require a deep breath and a pep talk. She once spent 10 minutes wrestling with a new shampoo bottle because the flip cap refused to flip and she refused to lose to plastic. And handwriting? Forget about it. The loops in her cursive used to be elegant, almost artistic. Now her grocery lists look like they were written on a bumpy bus ride. It's not constant. Some days are better than others. But when her grip goes, when her fingers refuse to obey, when the pen slips or the cup rattles, it hits her in a place deeper than the hands. Because it's not just about dexterity. It's about dignity. There's a kind of grief that comes with losing control of the small things. You feel it when you drop a spoon and hesitate to pick it up. Not because it's hard, but because it reminds you that once it wasn't. And sure, she laughs it off, makes a joke about her vintage fingers or blames it on cold weather. But deep down, she knows what it means. It means something is changing. She started avoiding clothing with tiny buttons. She uses both hands to lift a teacup now. She swapped her favorite mug, heavy and ceramic, for a lighter one that doesn't make her nervous. These aren't dramatic changes, just quiet substitutions, little surrenders. But they pile up, and the worst part? They're invisible to everyone else. People don't notice when you can't open a jar. But you notice. They don't see you switch to slip-on shoes. But you remember what it felt like to tie a bow without thinking about it. And when your hands fail you in front of someone, when a glass tips or a card falls or a handshake doesn't land quite right, there's that flash of embarrassment, quickly covered by a smile, a joke, a wave of the hand. Getting old is fun, huh? The truth is she misses being able to rely on her hands. They built her life. Stirred pots, changed diapers, planted gardens, signed birthday cards, held the hands of people she loved. These hands once did everything, and now they tremble. Not always, not dramatically, but just enough to remind her, this is how it starts. And maybe the real loss isn't the grip itself. It's the confidence that came with it. Still, every morning, she massages her fingers, closes and opens her fists, does the silly hand stretches she saw on YouTube. Not because she thinks they'll make everything go back to how it was, but because it feels like fighting for what she still has. And if that's not strength, what is? If any of this feels familiar, or made you laugh a little too hard, go ahead and tap that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications like it's your new favorite habit. Because we're just getting started. And trust me, number 2 hits even closer to home. Next on the list, daily tasks that now feel like Olympic events. Brushing your hair? That's arm day. Putting on socks? Flexibility training. And don't even mention tying shoes without taking a breather halfway through. Even brushing her hair feels like a full-body workout. Her arms get tired halfway through, and halfway through is usually where she stops. There was a time when brushing her hair was part of a ritual. Now it's something she schedules between sitting breaks. And don't even get her started on the mornings. It takes a solid 10 minutes just to get her feet from bed to floor. Another 5 to convince her knees to cooperate. Some mornings her body feels like a cranky machine booting up in the cold. Coffee helps, but not like it used to. Energy comes in short, unpredictable bursts now, like Wi-Fi in a thunderstorm. She doesn't bounce out of bed anymore. She negotiates with her joints. There's a whole conversation that happens before she even stands up. Ankles whispering threats, hips making their grievances known, her spine playing a slow-motion game of guess which vertebra is stuck today. Once upon a time, mornings meant momentum. She'd throw on clothes, make breakfast, start the day with a list and a purpose. Now she counts putting on socks as an achievement, and honestly, that feels fair. You try doing yoga moves just to reach your toes. Tasks that once felt effortless now demand strategy. Laundry gets broken into phases: sort, wash, rest, fold, optional. Vacuuming? That's a team sport between her and the chair she leans on every 5 minutes. And changing the bed sheets? That's practically an Olympic event. She needs to hydrate and stretch before tackling that beast. She's learned to pace herself. Clean one room, take a break, make lunch, sit down, water the plants, then rest long enough to forget where she put the watering can. But the real kicker? No one sees it. These aren't visible struggles. It's not like she's limping or gasping. She just pauses more, sits more, moves like someone who's got a snooze button for every limb. People assume she's slow because she's got time. But no, she's slow because she has no energy to waste. She used to pride herself on being efficient. The type to get things done before anyone else even noticed there was something to do. Now she finds herself staring at the dishwasher thinking, do I really need clean spoons today? Or can we go full pioneer and just rinse one and reuse it? It's not laziness. It's conservation. Because when you only get a few good hours of energy a day, you learn to use them wisely. Grocery shopping? Sure. But only if it's the only thing planned. Vacuuming and cooking dinner on the same day? Absolutely not. That's a 2-day recovery plan right there. And you know what? She's made peace with it, sort of. There are still moments where she catches herself mid-yawn at 2 in the afternoon and wonders, did I do anything today? And the answer might be no. But it also might be, I survived this morning's sock battle, so yes. That counts. Aging doesn't take away your ability to do things. It just asks that you budget your energy like it's the last battery on Earth. And some days, she nails it. Other days, she brushes half her hair, forgets why she walked into the laundry room and calls it a win. That, right there, is the new definition of productivity. Third on the list, the sudden superpower of invisibility, just not the fun kind. You walk into a room, say something brilliant, and everyone looks past you like you're a coat rack with opinions. The hardest part? She's still in there. The same woman who ran a household, kept everyone's schedules straight, volunteered, traveled, laughed too loud at dinner parties. That woman's still here. But these days, people look through her, past her, around her. She walks into a room and no one stops to hear what she thinks. Even when she speaks, she sees the glaze in their eyes, the impatience, the kind smile that says, we've already moved on. She used to be the glue. Now she feels like wallpaper, there but unnoticed. She'll say something, smart, thoughtful, maybe even funny, and it lands like a feather in a hurricane, gone before it's heard. One time at brunch, she made a joke about her old college roommate and the naked protest incident, and no one even blinked. Not because it wasn't funny, it was hilarious, but because they were too busy scrolling or talking over each other. And it's not just strangers or acquaintances. It happens with her own family. The grandkids only make eye contact between TikToks. Her daughter listens while chopping vegetables, nodding at the right moments, but with that faraway look that says she's already making a mental grocery list. Even her doctor once explained her own blood pressure chart to her like she was auditioning for a role in Confused Seniors the musical. She wants to shout, hey, I'm not a houseplant. I didn't suddenly turn into a decorative object once I hit 75. But she doesn't shout. Because she's polite. Because that's how she was raised. Because being loud won't make her feel heard. It'll just make people talk slower to her, as if the issue is volume and not value. There's a weird magic trick that happens when you age. You become visible only when there's a problem. Trip on a step, suddenly you're the center of attention. But offer advice on how to solve a real problem? Crickets. She could cure loneliness, fix a broken garbage disposal, and give relationship advice all before noon. And still be asked, do you need help remembering your password? She doesn't need help remembering her password. She needs someone to remember her. The stories, the wit, the grit. The way she used to juggle 3 kids, 2 jobs, and a PTA bake sale without blinking. The way she still remembers who cried at which wedding and which cousin brought the weird Jell-O mold to Thanksgiving in 1989. She used to be the one people called for everything. Now her phone stays quiet. Unless it's a robocall asking about her car's extended warranty, which she hasn't had since Bush was president. The first one. She's not bitter, but she is tired of disappearing in plain sight. Because being invisible doesn't mean you're not still alive. It just means you've stopped being asked the questions that make you feel alive. And that hurts more than anyone admits. So sometimes she answers questions no one asked, adds her 2 cents even when no one's counting. It's not about being difficult. It's about proving she's still here, because she is. With her own opinions, her own humor, her own stories that didn't come from Google or YouTube, but from living, failing, loving, and showing up every day for decades. If someone would just listen, she'd remind them. She's not done yet. She hasn't even told the best parts. Coming in at number 4, memory slips with a side of emotional whiplash. You forget your wedding song, cry folding towels, and start to wonder if your brain is playing hide and seek with all the important bits. But the worst blow came last Thursday. Her granddaughter asked what song she and Jack danced to at their wedding. Their song. The one they played every anniversary, every year for 42 years. And Helen couldn't remember. She laughed it off, said, "Oh, honey, it'll come to me later." But it didn't. And the harder she tried to pull it from her mind, the deeper it seemed to hide. Like something had stolen it right out of her head. She cried in the laundry room that night, quietly, while folding towels that didn't need folding. Because that's where it hit her. This wasn't just forgetting. This was something else. Something scarier. Like the edges of her life were starting to fade, and she didn't know how to color them back in. It wasn't the first time something like that had happened, but it was the first time it mattered that much. She could live with forgetting the name of her neighbor's dog or where she put the remote. But this was sacred. This was her and Jack. This was history. Hers. Now it felt like someone had taken an eraser to one of her most cherished pages. And it wasn't just the song. Lately, stories she's told 100 times start drifting halfway through. She'll be describing a family vacation to the lake, and then, what happened next? Was that the year the boat broke down, or was it the raccoon in the cooler? And suddenly she's floating, mid-sentence, mid-thought, with nothing to anchor her. She'll change the subject quickly, hoping no one noticed. But she notices. She notices the way her throat tightens when a word won't come. She notices the flicker of concern in her daughter's eyes when she double-checks whether she took her pill twice in one morning. She notices when the grandkids start correcting her, gently but firmly, about what day it was or what time they're supposed to be at dinner. And with every correction, she feels a little smaller. Like she's becoming a version of herself that even she doesn't recognize. And that's where the emotional confusion kicks in. It's not just memory, it's the fog that follows it. The strange cocktail of embarrassment, fear, and grief that bubbles up in these small, quiet moments. Because no one tells you how emotional forgetting can be. They don't talk about how a simple lapse, a name, a date, a word, can feel like someone's tugging at your identity, pulling loose the thread that held you together. Helen used to roll her eyes at people who said they felt off. Now she knows exactly what they meant. It's like being in a room you know well, but everything's just an inch to the left. Nothing dangerous, just unsettling. And the kicker? You start to doubt yourself. You wonder if you're being dramatic, if it's just aging or something worse. You second-guess your memory and your feelings. And that self-doubt, that is the part no one prepares you for. She started writing everything down. Appointments, reminders, groceries, even the names of people she's about to call, just in case. Her fridge looks like a motivational Pinterest board met a crime investigation wall. But it helps. A little. The irony? She never used to need notes. Now they're her security blanket. And sometimes when she reads one back, she finds herself asking, did I write this when? It's enough to make her laugh, or cry, or both. And sometimes she does, laughs until she cries, or cries until it turns into a laugh. It's all a bit jumbled now. But the worst part, the truly bitter part, is knowing that no one else sees how hard she's working just to keep up. Because outwardly, she still seems with it. She still tells jokes, hosts dinner, remembers birthdays. But inside, she's juggling 10 plates in her mind, and every day one feels closer to falling. So when that song, their song, slipped away, it wasn't just a lapse. It was a tiny heartbreak. A moment of mourning for the piece of her that used to remember everything and now stares blankly at the ceiling, whispering, come on, come back to me. It hasn't yet. But every day she hums a few bars, hoping her memory hums back. Fifth on the list, that charming moment when your brain hits the pause button mid-sentence. You're telling a story, everyone's listening, and then poof, the next word vanishes like it owes you money. It wasn't a one-off either. Helen had always been sharp, the kind of sharp that made people say, ask Helen, she'll remember. Birthdays, automatic. Old zip codes, got 'em. Her high school locker combo, 27 left, 16 right, 32 left, like it was tattooed on the inside of her skull. Her memory was more than a skill. It was her signature move. But now, she walks into the kitchen and just stands there. Not in a peaceful, reflective way. More like a browser with too many tabs open and nothing loading. She'll open the fridge and stare like it's going to give her a hint. Was it milk, cheese, ice cream she forgot she bought but hopes magically appeared? She shuts the door slowly. Like maybe if she's gentle with it, the answer will come whispering back. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. And that's where the fog rolls in. Not a thick, dramatic fog, but a subtle, irritating one. The kind that makes your thoughts feel like they're wearing wet socks. You know they're there, but everything feels squishy and slow. She'll start telling a story she's told 100 times about the camping trip where the raccoon stole Jack's shoe, and mid-sentence, poof, the words just vanish, gone. Like someone hit the mute button on her brain. The sentence sits there abandoned, and she's left holding the conversation like a dropped baton in a relay race. So she chuckles, changes the subject, pretends it was no big deal. But inside, it rattles her because it didn't used to happen. And now it does, more often than she'd like. Not enough for anyone else to raise alarms, but enough for her to start cataloguing it. She doesn't talk about it out loud, of course. It's not the sort of thing you bring up at lunch, pass the salt, and by the way, I think my brain's buffering again. No, she keeps it quiet. But she does talk about it to herself. In the mirror, in the car, in the laundry room while folding towels she doesn't remember washing. Come on, Helen, get it together. Why did I walk in here again? Oh, for crying out loud, it was just on the tip of my tongue. It's not just forgetting, it's the weight of questioning herself. Every time it happens, it chips a little piece off her confidence, and the pieces add up. She started second-guessing things. Did she turn off the stove? Did she pay the gas bill? Is it Tuesday or Thursday? There are now sticky notes on the fridge, the bathroom mirror, the microwave. Reminders, reassurances, breadcrumbs back to who she used to be. She's still functional, still witty, still Helen. But underneath she wonders, is this how it starts? Is this the first chapter of that story no one wants to read? And here's the kicker. No one sees it happening. Not really. Because she's still with it enough to compensate. She laughs off the lapses. She makes a joke. She steers the conversation away from whatever she forgot, like a magician misdirecting the audience. But the act is exhausting. By the end of the day, it's not her legs or back that feel the most tired. It's the part of her that's been pretending not to be scared. Because that's what the fog does. It doesn't just cloud your thoughts. It creeps into your sense of self, makes you question your sharpness, your wit, your worth. And still, she keeps going. Because even when the fog rolls in, the light's still there. Flickering, yes, but shining. She's just learning to carry a flashlight now. Coming in at number 6, the fear of being seen as declining. She doesn't want to be the woman others correct. No, Grandma, it was Thursday, not Tuesday. It's not meant to hurt. It's gentle, polite, even helpful. But that one sentence, it lingers. It nestles in her chest longer than anyone realizes. Long after the conversation's moved on, she's still sitting with it, chewing it like something too tough to swallow. Because that sting, it's not about the date. It's about what it represents. That maybe, just maybe, people are starting to view her differently. Not as Helen, the smart one, the organized one, the one with a sharper tongue than most people half her age. But Helen, the one you correct gently, as if her memory is a fragile thing you don't want to bruise. So she adapts. She grows quieter in conversations, not because she has nothing to say, but because she now measures every word like it's walking a tightrope. She doesn't jump in like she used to. She waits, listens, calculates, because being wrong now feels different than it used to. In her 40s, being wrong was just a shrug and a joke. Now it's a reminder, a red flag, a whisper that says, see, she's slipping. And nothing makes her skin crawl like that moment when someone repeats themselves a little too slowly, or turns toward her to speak more loudly, as if forgetting a date means her ears packed up and retired too. She wants to scream, I'm not broken. I just mixed up a day, not a decade. But she doesn't. Because aging also teaches restraint. How to nod politely when you feel patronized. How to pretend the correction didn't bruise something soft inside you. At a dinner last month, someone paused mid-story to explain a reference to Helen, as if she hadn't lived through the thing herself. She smiled, nodded, played along. But inside, she was boiling. I was there when that happened, she wanted to say. I had better seats than you. But again, she didn't. Because when you're older, there's this constant push and pull. You want to stay relevant, present, part of the conversation. But every correction, no matter how well-meaning, feels like a little shove out of the spotlight. So she edits herself now. She fact-checks her own stories mid-sentence, rehearses names before saying them out loud, holds back a funny memory because she's not entirely sure it happened in 92 or 93, and God forbid someone jumps in to clarify. It's exhausting. Not the talking, but the calculating. The quiet math of how to stay confident when you feel like you're being gently audited all the time. She doesn't need pity. She doesn't need people to baby her. What she needs is a little trust, a little patience. Maybe even someone to say, even if you get it wrong, it's still worth hearing. Because the real fear, it's not about being wrong. It's about being dismissed. And so she goes on, editing herself into smaller and smaller margins, not because her thoughts are less valid, but because the world has started looking at her through a fogged-up lens. And all she wants, really, is to wipe it clean and say, see me, still me. Just a little slower on the Tuesdays. At number 7, food, your old friend turns traitor. Spicy noodles betray you, cheese stages a rebellion, and suddenly fiber isn't just a suggestion. It's a survival strategy. It's not just her memory turning on her. Her stomach has joined the rebellion. Once, Helen could eat anything without consequence. Spicy noodles that could bring tears to a dragon's eyes, triple espressos at midnight, and cheese by the block, not the slice. She was fearless. Her stomach was cast iron. Her digestive tract, a well-oiled machine. Now she has to negotiate with her meals like she's signing a treaty. One bite of lasagna and she's doing deep breathing exercises by dessert. Coffee is no longer her best friend. It's a risky frenemy that turns on her halfway through the cup. Cheese is emotional. It calls to her. It mocks her. She loves it like an old flame she knows will hurt her every time, but she just can't quit. She keeps Tums in every room, not just in the bathroom, oh no. The kitchen, the car, her nightstand, her knitting bag. She's got them stashed like a teenager hiding snacks. And yes, the chalky ones. The chewy ones upset her stomach more. Go figure. She also carries a purse-sized bottle of digestive enzymes everywhere, which she now refers to as her dinner date chaperones. They go wherever she does. Italian restaurant, they're in her pocket. Family barbecue, already in her hand. Sushi night, she takes 2 and prays for mercy. And then there's fiber. Fiber used to be something you barely thought about. Now it's a food group, a lifestyle, a moral compass. Helen checks nutrition labels like she's cracking codes, muttering things like, how does this only have 2 grams? Like it's a crime. Her kitchen has evolved too. Goodbye hot sauce. Hello oat bran. Her spice rack looks abandoned, but the probiotic shelf is fully stocked and alphabetized. Food used to be joy, celebration, that second helping of pie because why not? Now, it's calculus. It's meal planning with hazard warnings, may cause bloating, regret, or spontaneous napping. And yet, every now and then she rebels. She sneaks a slice of pepperoni pizza when no one's looking, has half a brownie at her book club and hopes the sugar doesn't give her night sweats. She keeps a hidden stash of chocolate in the freezer, behind the frozen peas where no one thinks to look, because even if her stomach is fussy, her spirit's still got spice. But oh, she pays for it. The indigestion, the midnight gas, the mysterious belly gurgle that sounds like a trapped poltergeist, and still worth it. Because aging might come with dietary restrictions, but it hasn't taken her taste for rebellion or cheese, just her tolerance for it. Rest in peace, nachos. You were loved fiercely. Number 8, sleep. Once loyal, now a distant memory. You used to snooze like a baby. Now you're up at 2, 4, and 5:30, having full-blown existential crises between bathroom trips. But the real betrayal? Sleep. Helen used to sleep like a log. Not even like a log. Logs are amateurs. She slept like someone who had wrestled lions all day and had zero regrets. Head to pillow, out cold, no interruptions, no dreams, just darkness and rest. 8 beautiful, uninterrupted hours. Now her sleep schedule reads like a toddler on espresso. She wakes up at 2 a.m., convinced she heard something. Then again at 4 a.m. to pee, or maybe not even pee, just to think about peeing. And then again around dawn, because apparently her body has decided that 5:17 a.m. is a lovely time to sit and stare at the ceiling and think about tax forms from 1997. Sometimes she wakes up from a dream so vivid she has to check her living room to make sure it didn't actually happen. Other times she wakes up for no reason at all, just her brain whispering, "Hey, let's talk about every regret you've ever had." She's tried everything: herbal tea, stretching, melatonin, meditation apps that promise enlightenment but deliver the urge to clean out her spice rack. She bought a lavender pillow spray that made her room smell like a gift shop in Sedona. She even tried that trick of keeping her phone in another room, but all that did was make her paranoid about where her phone was. And let's not forget the sleep tracker that told her, cheerfully, "You got 4 hours and 17 minutes of restful sleep last night," as if that was cause for celebration instead of concern. Her doctor said it's normal. Part of aging, he smiled, which is apparently medical code for good luck with that. The worst part isn't just the sleep interruptions, it's the aftermath. When she doesn't sleep well, she notices it everywhere. Her balance is off, her mood tilts south, her memory turns into Swiss cheese. She once poured orange juice into her cereal and didn't even notice until the first bite. That's the level of brain fog we're talking about. So now, she doesn't leave sleep to chance. It's a ritual, a ceremony, really. No phone after dinner, no scary news stories, no stressful conversations about health insurance or politics. She dims the lights like she's prepping for a séance, puts on socks, has her chamomile tea, reads a little, but only light stuff. Nothing emotional, nothing too exciting. Definitely no murder mysteries, those are a gamble. She even invested in blackout curtains. She used to laugh at people who had those. Now she'd black out the moon if it meant 2 extra hours of REM. And when she gets a decent night's sleep, she feels like a goddess. Her mind is clearer, her knees don't pop as much. She remembers where she left her glasses without retracing her steps like a crime scene investigator. It's like someone defogged her entire soul. But when sleep still plays hard to get, she gives herself grace. There's always tomorrow night. Or maybe an unapologetic nap with a blanket on the couch and Judge Judy in the background. At this point, naps aren't indulgences. They're survival strategies. Because if aging has taught her anything, it's this. Never underestimate the power of shutting your eyes and pretending the world doesn't exist for 20 minutes. Even if you wake up with a stiff neck and no idea what day it is. 9th on the list. Mood swings and the art of being mad at yourself. You drop your glasses, forget why you walked into a room, and give yourself a pep talk and a scolding, all before breakfast. Helen's patience used to be the stuff of legends. She once hosted a Thanksgiving dinner for 18 people, including 2 vegetarians, a gluten-free cousin, and a toddler who only ate beige food, without so much as a raised voice. Her calm was unshakable. Her nickname in the family group chat, Zen Grandma. But now she finds herself muttering under her breath when the toothpaste cap disappears again, or when she drops the remote for the 3rd time in one afternoon. She doesn't yell, doesn't curse, just a low, tired sigh followed by something like, "Oh, come on, Helen." She doesn't snap at others, still far too gracious for that. But her inner critic? Ruthless. A regular roastmaster general. Walks into a room, stands there blankly, and mutters, "Brilliant," like she just forgot the Pythagorean theorem on live TV. She drops her pen and mutters like it's a personal failure. Not the pen's fault. Not gravity's. Hers. She forgets a name. Nothing huge, just the neighbour's daughter's name. And it stays with her all day. Not because anyone noticed, but because she noticed. And that little mental tally of tiny failures keeps growing like it's on commission. And don't even talk to her about books. She used to fly through novels, whole trilogies in a weekend. Now she rereads the same paragraph 3 times because her mind wanders somewhere between the second and third sentence. By the time she finishes a chapter, she's forgotten who's married to who and whether the murder weapon was a candlestick or the tension in the room. Of course, she laughs about it out loud, makes jokes about Swiss cheese brain or needing a reboot. But inside, it stings, because every stumble, every mental blank, every moment of frustration feels like proof she's becoming someone else. Someone slower, less precise, less her. And there's grief in that. Not the loud weeping kind, the quiet kind. The kind that whispers, "You used to be better at this," when she can't remember why she walked into the laundry room. She never used to scold herself for small things. Now, she gives herself full-on lectures. "Get it together," she'll say. Or, "You've done this 1,000 times before," as if discipline can rewind biology. She's not depressed. She still finds joy, still laughs. But the patience she used to extend so easily to the world, it's harder to find for herself now. And that hurts in ways no one talks about. Because frustration turned inward doesn't just exhaust you, it chips away at your confidence, little by little. So she's learning, slowly, stubbornly, to ease up, to say, "So what if I drop the spoon?" And mean it. To let go of the illusion that perfection is the goal. To talk to herself the way she talks to her grandkids when they get something wrong, not with sarcasm or scolding, but with a smile and a shrug. "That's okay, sweetheart. Try again." Because if anyone deserves a little grace, it's the woman who raised 3 kids, balanced 2 checkbooks, survived 5 presidents, and still makes a mean pot roast. Even if she occasionally forgets where she put the time. At number 10, the fear of falling, because gravity has started feeling personal. One dizzy spell in the bathroom, and suddenly you're treating area rugs like hostile terrain and shopping for slippers with the grip of hiking boots. And it doesn't help that her body has started playing tricks on her. Nothing dramatic, just enough to keep her on edge. Last month, Helen got dizzy in the bathroom. 1 second she was brushing her teeth, the next she had to grab the counter and lower herself to the floor before the tiles rose up to meet her. She sat there for a while, heart pounding, breathing slow, telling herself she was fine. And she was, physically. But the what if wrapped itself around her and didn't let go. What if she'd hit her head? What if no one checked on her until the next morning? What if it was one of those quiet falls, where you feel okay at first, but hours later there's a brain bleed nobody saw coming? It was a dizzy spell, a fluke. But it changed everything. That night, she started sleeping with the bathroom light on. Not because she's afraid of the dark, but because she's afraid of what she might trip on in it. She put her slippers at perfect right angles by the bed. She even started carrying her phone in her robe pocket like a nervous teenager waiting for a text. Because that one moment, it rewired her instincts. Falling, when you're younger, is an inconvenience, a bruise, a funny story later. But at her age, a fall is a gateway, a ticket to X-rays, MRIs, hospital gowns, and the dreaded moment when your adult children gently say, "Maybe we should talk about other living arrangements." She knows the stats. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death for adults over 65. Break a hip and it's not just the bone, it's your independence that shatters. So she made some changes. Out went the hallway rug she used to love, the one with the fringe that always curled up like it had attitude. In came the no-slip mats, ugly beige and utterly reliable. She swapped her fluffy slippers for orthopedic ones with rubber soles. She even ordered a grab bar for the shower, which she stared at in the Amazon cart for 3 days before clicking buy now. It all felt like giving in at first, like admitting defeat. But now, It feels like strategy, like staying ahead of the enemy. And gravity these days feels a little more hostile than neutral. She doesn't talk about it with her kids. What would she say? Hi, sweetie. Just wanted you to know your mother's one bad slip away from turning her bathroom into a Life Alert commercial. No, she keeps it to herself, makes her quiet modifications, moves through her house like it's a minefield she's learned how to map. She takes the stairs slower, doesn't carry laundry baskets without using both hands, leaves lights on even during the day if it's cloudy. She's not paranoid, just experienced. That's what people forget. With age comes caution, not fear. Experience teaches you that your body won't always catch you when you fall, and that sometimes the floor hits back harder than you remember. So yes, she misses her freedom. She misses moving fast. She misses charging through her day like nothing could stop her. But more than that, she misses feeling safe in her own body. And that's the hardest part of all, when the thing you've always relied on, the thing that carried groceries and grandkids and decades of movement, starts needing your protection instead. So now, Helen walks slower, but she walks wiser. And she knows, sometimes survival doesn't look like strength. Sometimes it looks like non-slip socks and a phone in your bathrobe. Number 11, the quiet grief of being the last keeper of your own stories. You've got a lifetime of memories, but no one asks anymore. So you tell them to the dog, the mirror, or your teacup, just to keep them alive. And then there's the part no one talks about. The grief that doesn't wear black or come with casseroles. The kind that creeps in on a Tuesday afternoon while folding laundry. The grief of being the last one who remembers. Helen has outlived her husband, her best friend, 2 sisters, 3 dogs, and the neighbor who used to bring her tulips every spring just because he said she reminded him of his mother, but younger and mouthier. What no one prepares you for is this. Grief doesn't always come from death. Sometimes it comes from the slow erosion of being remembered. From realizing that the people who used to say, "Oh yeah, I remember that," when you told a story, aren't here to say it anymore. She's got 1,000 stories tucked into her chest like old postcards, faded but vivid to her. The smell of her mother's rosewater perfume. The time she got caught sneaking into a drive-in movie in the trunk of a car. Don't ask. The feel of Jack's hand at their wedding, how it trembled just a little, and how that made her love him even more. But no one asks anymore. The conversations these days are mostly medical updates and weather reports. Did you take your medication? How's your blood pressure? Did you get enough sleep? Polite, caring, necessary, but not exactly soul-stirring. Helen answers kindly, because she's grateful anyone checks in at all. But a part of her aches for someone to look her in the eye and say, "Tell me a story, the real kind, the kind you haven't told in years." Not the sanitized summary of her life, the highlight reel, the messier bits, the parts that don't make holiday cards. Like how she once packed a suitcase at 23, convinced she was leaving town for good, and then didn't because it started raining and she didn't want to ruin her shoes. Or how she once kissed someone who wasn't Jack, just to see what it felt like. Spoiler, unsatisfying. Those are the stories that made her who she is. Not just the milestones, but the moments in between. Sometimes she starts telling one. Starts with, "Did I ever tell you about the time?" and then trails off. Not because she forgot, but because halfway through she realizes the person she's talking to isn't really listening. They've already nodded, already moved on in their mind. Or they smile politely like she's a jukebox on shuffle. So she swallows the rest of the story, files it back under maybe later. And the silence that follows? Heavier than her arthritis, more suffocating than the tightness in her chest on humid days. Because it's one thing to feel lonely, it's another to feel like your memories have nowhere left to go. Sometimes she looks at old photographs and narrates them to herself, just to make sure the people in them still exist out loud. She even started journaling again. Nothing fancy, just small notes in the margins of her day. The kind of stuff you'd never write in a diary when you're young, because you assume you'll always remember. Now she writes it all down. Not for posterity, just so it doesn't disappear. And here's the part no one tells you with a straight face. Aging isn't just a physical change. It's a quiet emotional marathon. One where your body slows down, but your memories keep sprinting ahead, begging to be heard before they vanish into the fog. So if someone says, "Tell me about your life," Helen won't hesitate next time, because her stories aren't leftovers. They're the main course. And just because most people stopped asking doesn't mean they're not worth telling. And finally, number 12, loneliness and the sinking feeling that you've become background noise. You're still full of wisdom, wit, and wildly good stories, but some days the only one who really sees you is the TV remote. Helen was never the clingy type. She valued her independence. Thank you very much. She didn't need to be constantly surrounded by people. Just a good book, a hot drink, and the occasional nosy neighbor to gossip about was usually enough. But lately, it's different. Some weeks go by with just a few texts, a short phone call, and a mailman who seems morally opposed to eye contact. She's starting to feel less like a person and more like background noise in everyone else's busy lives. The hardest part, the creeping sense that she's become optional. People say, stay busy, like she's trying to kill time. But she's not trying to fill a calendar. She's trying to feel relevant, to feel seen, to feel like she still has something meaningful to give before she's mistaken for a throw pillow on the family couch. And the kicker? This kind of loneliness isn't just a little sad violin moment. It's actually dangerous. Studies show that older adults who feel disconnected or unseen are nearly 50% more likely to develop cognitive decline, depression, and even face a shorter lifespan. Loneliness, it turns out, is more lethal than bacon and way less delicious. And the scariest part, you can feel lonely even when you're technically not alone. You can be in a crowded room, a family dinner, even a bingo hall, and still feel invisible. So Helen decided she wouldn't go quietly into that good recliner. She joined a walking group. 3 women, all over 70. None of them own Fitbits. They walk slow, talk slower, and laugh like they're hiding something from the cops. They share everything from hip replacement stories to who still wears lipstick to bed. It's not about exercise. It's about connection. About getting out of the house, brushing her hair, and feeling like a part of something again. Last week, they all admitted it takes them over 10 minutes just to get out of bed. And then they laughed so hard, a jogger gave them a wide berth. It wasn't funny because it was silly. It was funny because it was true. And in that moment, Helen didn't feel alone. She felt seen. She also started painting, badly. Her trees looked like broccoli. Her sunsets resembled scrambled eggs on a cloudy day. But she loves it. No one's grading her. No one's correcting her brushstrokes. It's messy. It's hers. And it gives her something to look forward to that doesn't involve waiting for the pharmacy to refill her prescription. For the first time in a long time, she feels proud of something again. That's what aging is about. Not just what fades, but what remains. What you choose to build. Where you choose to show up. It's about adjusting to the new pace, adapting when your joints file complaints, and occasionally shouting, "Oh, come on," at your pill organizer because you can't remember if it's Wednesday or déjà vu. It's about laughing anyway, loving anyway, and remembering that even if your body forgets how to sleep through the night, your heart still remembers how to show up. So straighten the photo frame, or don't. Say the thing you've been meaning to say, even if your voice cracks a little when you say it. Tell your story, even if no one asked, because someone needs to hear it. Maybe not today, maybe not even tomorrow, but someday it'll land exactly where it's meant to, because your voice still matters. Your presence still matters. And whether your hands tremble, your knees argue with you, or your memory occasionally short circuits, you are still you, still worthy, still deeply, beautifully alive. And if this made you nod, tear up, or laugh just a little louder than you meant to, do yourself a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Turn on those notifications like you're setting your DVR for Matlock reruns. Because this channel, it's not just videos. It's proof that you're not alone. And trust me, Helen would want you to stick around.